Hi everyone, today we are going to do video reading, vocabulary, speaking and listening. Hammaga salom. Bugun siz bilan birgalikda biz yangi so'zlarni o'rganib chiqamiz, readingni o'qiymiz va listeningga ham urg'u beramiz. Demak, tayyor bo'lsangiz, boshladik. So, in the reading part, we are going to talk about the lost city. So, this is a very much mysterious story. So, now let's read it together. The adventure began when Jenny sat next to a giant ear. Giant, huge, big. So adventure is a journey full of risks, full of danger. So unexpected situations. I'm too hot and tired to go any further. Further, it's a comparative form of far, further or farther. So it means uzoqroq. She said, we left the oasis hours ago. It's time for a rest. If you remember, we talked about it's time for. So it means nimadirga vaqt keldi. It's time for saying goodbye or it's time for homework. It's time to do homework. Agar it's time dan keyin fe'l kelsa, biz ishlatamiz it's time plus to plus verb. Agar bizda it's time dan keyin ega ishlatilsa, biz ishlatamiz it's time for plus noun. Alright? It's time for a rest. Dam olishga vaqt keldi. She put her bag on the hot rock beside her and then exclaim it. Exclaim it, it means to say very much loudly out of surprise. For example, my little brother comes in and says, hi, I got into, for example, he comes into the room and says, and for example, my little brother comes into the room and exclaims, congratulations, I got into university. So it means to say very much loudly with full of surprise, with full of emotions. Look at this, it's enormous ear. So she stood up and brushed a little sand off the rock. Here is an eye, and down here there is a nose. It's a huge face. Uncle Jim was amazed. It's the head of a statue, he said. But why is it here, in the middle of the desert? Amazed, it means surprised. Hayratda bo'ldi. Pete was looking at the ground. These big flat stones look like a floor, he said. Flat, tekis. He stepped onto the first stone. He stepped onto. Step, it means qadam qilmoq. It slid away under his foot and he nearly fell off. U silpanib tushdi. Slid away. U degan silpanib tushdi. Uncle Jim grabbed his arm. It slid away under his foot and he nearly fell over. Fell over, yiqilib tushdi. Slid away, it means silpanib ketdi. Uncle Jim grabbed his arm. Grabbed it means tezda ushlab olmoq. They stared into a narrow, dark hole in the ground. They stared into a narrow, dark hole in the ground. Stare, it means for a long time to look at something. Nimadirga uzoq vaqt bo'yida qaramoq. Was down there? Asked Pete. Uncle Jim knelt down and shone his torch into the hole. Knelt down, it means tiziga o'tirmoq. Shone, this is the past form of shine. What can you see? Asked Pete. Uncle Jim was silent. Silent means he didn't speak. Oh, isn't there anything down there? Asked Jenny. She sounded disappointed. There is a big room down there, said Uncle Jim. I can see tall pots and furniture. It might be very valuable. Valuable, it means qimmatbaho, very much expensive. I must phone the city museum. Just then they heard a distant hum. Distant, it means uzoqdan kelayotgan tovushni eshitishdi. Jenny looked up. A car is coming, she said. Quick, let's put this map over the hole, said Uncle Jim. We shouldn't tell anyone about it. Sometimes people take valuable things and sell them as souvenirs. How can we hide the head? Asked Pete. I know, said Jenny. I'll put my big scarf over the head. If you put the water bottles and some fruit on the scarf, it will look like a picnic. Then we will sit on the head. Hurry up, shoshiling. A big silver 4x4 roared round the sand dunes. Two men got out and walked across the sand. Hi, said the first man. Are you looking for something special? Siz nimadir maxsusni qidiryapsizmi? We are not looking for anything at all, said Uncle Jim. We are just tourists, so they lied. Otherwise, these tourists will come and steal all the valuable things. The two men looked at them suspiciously. Suspiciously, we learned with you this word. It means shubha bilan. If you find anything interesting, we will pay you money for it, said the second man. We haven't seen anything special, anything interesting all day, said Jenny. No camel trees, no ruins, not even a date palm. It's all very much boring. The two men drove away and Uncle Jim found the museum. He spoke to Professor Hamid for a long time. Professor Hamid was an archaeologist who worked at the museum. When he arrived, he looked into the hall. Have you found something exciting? Asked Pete. Professor Hamid smiled. Do you remember the two men who were in the 4-4? Pete and Jenny nodded. Nodded, it means to say yes with your head. Those men are looking for something. Treasure? Suggested the children at once. Professor Hamid nodded. They are looking for a lost city, he said. And guess what? I think we have just found it. So they have found something special, a lost city. Now let's move to the question parts. So most probably they have found a very much valuable city. So most probably they have found a city full of valuable things. And it's quite a mysterious story. Now please pause the video and retell. Retelling is always beneficial. Very good. Now let's move to the question parts. So in the question part, we are going to read these words and we have to answer who said these words. For example, the first one is a huge face. Who said? Jenny said it's a huge face. So in the first exercise, what we have to do, we have to answer who said this. So it's a huge face. Who said it? Jenny said it's a huge face. Next one is the head of statue. What do you think? Who said it? Uncle Jim said these words. Third, there is big flat stones look like a floor. These are words of Pete. Was down there? Again, this is Pete's question. I must phone the city museum. This is Uncle Jim. Are you looking for something special? These are one of the men of these two. Are you looking? Next, 6. Are you looking for something special? This was said by one of the men in this 4-4 silver car. It's all very boring, Jenny said. Those men are looking for something. This is a word. These are the words of Professor Hamid. Well done. Now let's move to the next exercise. So the first question. Why was Uncle Jim amazed? Because he said that how come in the middle of the desert there is a huge face? He did not expect this. He did not wait that in such a big, huge desert there could be a face and then inside of it is a home, like a town, like a mysterious city. Inside of a face. How come it's possible? So he was very much surprised of this. Second, why did they hide the hole in the ground? Most probably they hid the hole in the ground so that not everyone will come and find it because there are a lot of valuable things inside of it. And third, why did Jenny say it's all very boring? She wanted to assure these tourists that nothing interesting here so that they can go away from this place and not use this place for their own advantage. Alright, these are my answers. Please pause the video and answer to these questions on your own as well. Very good, and now we are moving to the last, third exercise. So here we have to match the words with their definitions. Amazed it means very much surprised, very surprised. Second, grab, it means to take hold of something quickly. Tezda nimadirni ushlab olmoq. Valuable, it is equal to a large amount of money, something very much expensive. Suspiciously, thinking something may not be true. Shubha bilan. And the last one, boring, it means not at all interesting. Very good. Now let's move to the grammar part. So in the grammar part, we are going to talk about relative clauses. Let's first read these two sentences. I have a friend, he works in the US. So these are two simple sentences. Bu ikkita oddiy gap. Va shu ikkita gapni biz bog'lamoqchi bo'lsak, biz who qo'shimchasini ishlatamiz. Bu savol emas. Siz bilsangiz kerak, who, which, what, where so'zlarni ko'pincha biz savol gaplarda ishlatamiz. Lekin bu yerda biz who'ni positive sentence'da ishlatamiz. Va shu ikkita gapni bog'lamoqchi bo'lsak, biz who'ni ishlatamiz. I have a friend who works in the US. Hozir ko'rib turganingizdek, ikkita oddiy gapimiz, bitta murakkab gap yasaldi. Who qo'shimchasini biz people bilan ishlatamiz, ya'ni odamlar bilan ishlatamiz. Which yoki z narsalarga nisbatan ishlatamiz. I'm reading a book that was written by Joanna K. Rowling, or I'm reading the book which was written by Joanna K. Rowling. So this is again not a question but a positive sentence. Men kitobni o'qiyapman, qaysiki Joanna K. Rowling bilan yozilgan edi. Yoki men Joanna K. Rowling yozgan kitobini o'qiyapman. And the last one, where we use for places. This is the school where I studied. Bu maktab qayerdagi men o'qigan edim. Again, this is not a question, this is just a positive sentence. Now, please make 6 sentences with these 3 words. 2 with who, 2 with which or that, and 2 with where. I think it's not very much difficult, so we just use these words to connect 2 simple sentences. Well done. Now let's do together one exercise so that we will make sure that we have fully understood this topic. So in this exercise, we are going to use who, where, that, or which. Please pause the video and do it on your own. With the first one, I will help you. I met a girl who knows your parents. Why who? Because a girl. This is a person. That's why we are using who. Others do on your own and we will check together. So sentence number 2 says the boy who broke the window. Why who? Because this is the person, boy. Third, I live in the city where you can find many beautiful old buildings. City is a place, that's why we are using where. She works for a company which makes cars. So here, company, this is a thing, that's why we are using which. Fifth, this is the place where you can have a rest. Place, that's why we are using where. Sixth, the present which or that you gave me was fantastic. Seventh, this is the dog that was found on the street yesterday. Eighth, the woman who is standing over there is my teacher. Ninth, I bought the book which you told me about. And the last one, tenth, I hope it's visible. This is the town where my grandmother was born. So I say your answers are also the same. Now let's move to the listening part. So in the listening part, we are going to talk about Rupert and Uncle Henry's trip. So the first one, what we have to do, we have to answer where they are planning to go, where they are going to explore. So this is rainforest or the Arctic, the desert or under the sea. So you are going to listen and answer to this question. Then what you have to do, you have to answer what things will Henry and Rupert take with them. So are they going to take a hat or a jacket or sunglasses, pair of... So in the next, then what you have to do, you have to answer what things will Henry and Rupert take with them. Next one, what they are going to take with them? They are going to take water, bottle of water. Next, a good pair of sunglasses, a warm jumper, and the last one, a hat, so that they will hats, so that their heads will not burn. Good job. Now let's move to the last exercise. So in this exercise, what we have to do, we have to connect the sentences using the relative clause who only, not where, not which, only who, alright? For example, the first one, a pilot is a person who flies planes, right? Next, others, and others, please do them on your own. So let's check our answers. Second, a sailor is a person who works on a ship. So sailor, this is the English ship. Third, a teacher is a man or a woman who works in a school. This is E. Fourth, a nurse is someone who works in a hospital. Fifth, a poet is someone who writes poems. And sixth, a pupil is a child who studies at school. This is C. Well done. Now let's move to the next exercise. In the next exercise, again, we have two sentences and we have to connect them using who. Uncle Jim was an explorer. He loved going into the desert. Uncle Jim was an explorer who loved going into the desert. Next, let's do together. The first one, Uncle Jim was a traveler who loved visiting new places. So we don't have to use here the word he. Instead of it, we are using who. Second, Professor Hamid was an archaeologist who knew a lot about old statues. Third, Jenny and Pete are children who often travel with their uncle. Again, we don't need to use these words. Uncle Jim spoke to the men who were driving the 4x4. The statue was of a man who was the king of that country years ago. And the last one, Professor Hamid knew about the explorers who were looking for a lost city. Very good. So this is the end of our lesson. I hope everything was crystal clear to you. Do not forget to use these words in your daily life, in your daily routine, so that your sentences will sound much more interesting and beautiful. Goodbye. See you soon.